So oftentimes in videos, I'll do, some sort of lick, and in the comments, y'all will say, Dave, that was a great blues lick, but how about some country licks? Or that was a great country lick, but how about some rock licks? And honestly, I don't think about guitar licks that way. I only know a handful of guitar licks, at least to me, I only know a handful, and I just sort of adapt them to whatever genre I happen to be playing. So I don't classify them as a blues lick or a country lick or a rock lick. Instead, I just think of them as a guitar lick, and I just sort of incorporate them no matter what genre I'm playing. So I want to show you like 3 different things that I do, and I'll do in any genre. So anytime you learn a guitar lick, don't think of it as this is a country lick or blues or rock or jazz or whatever. Try to incorporate them into different genres. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So all of the things I'm going to do in the key of G today, but these are movable anywhere. These are movable shapes, so just move them up or down to change keys. And if you need help with that, let me know in the comments. So I'm going to be in the key of G, and if I come up here where I play this bar chord G, one of the things that I stole from Merle Haggard, so again, a lot of y'all think of this as a country lick, but I use this in all sorts of different licks, and we'll just call this lick number 1. And I'm going to be playing around this bar chord shape, but instead of making a bar chord, to make it easier to play this, I'm going to play it in an F shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this middle finger and then hammer it back on to that third, or the note that I'm missing out of that chord. And then I'm going to lay this finger flat and then do that first part again. So it's just kind of a repetitive lick. So I'm just hammering on, laying my finger flat. Hammering on, laying my finger flat. And this was the first time I heard it was in Merle Haggard's Working Man Blues. He did this in A, so you would just move up 2 frets. But again, I don't think of this as just a country lick. So I might throw this into blues and rock as well. So move it back 2 frets. And we're in G, and I'm going to put on a backing track at the end and sort of show you how I incorporate these into some different genres. So that's a really useful lick to know. Again, don't think of it just as country. Think of it as being just a guitar lick that you can throw into anything. Now, another lick that I use all the time is out of a D7th shape. So come down here, we can make a D7th. But if I move this shape up to the 6th and the 7th fret, now I've got a G7th. And normally when I've talked about this in the past, I talk about this as a blues turnaround. So if we just take this shape, move it down 1 fret at a time, and then end on our G chord, that would be a typical blues turnaround. But again, I don't think of this strictly as just a blues lick or a blues turnaround. I use this lick all the time in lots of different genres. So when we've talked about this lick in the past, remember, you don't have to strum them all together. You can hit them individually. You can hit, say, just the G and the E string. You can kind of bounce between the G and the E string. Or you can hit just the G and the B string. Now, again, you don't have to walk it all the way down. One thing that I'll do a lot with this same idea, I'm thinking of the same lick, but one way I might incorporate this, say, into different blues or into rock playing even, I'll take this shape and I'll slide it in from 1 fret underneath, and I'm mainly focusing on the G and the B string, but it's still this same shape that I'm thinking around. So I'm thinking around this shape, but I'm I'm not walking it down, I'm instead kind of sliding it up to the 6th and the 7th fret. So again, try different options with these licks. They don't have to just be blues, they can be country. One thing that I'll do, say if it's a country song, when I go, if I'm in the key of G and I go to the D chord in country, I might play the G and the E string together. And that sounds really good in a country song to resolve back to my G chord. So experiment around, you know, instead of walking it down, try walking it up, try sliding it in from one fret underneath, and don't get stuck thinking, well, this is just a blues turnaround lick. No, this is a guitar lick, and it's up to us to kind of experiment around and kind of make it our own and make it fit whatever we're playing. Now, another thing that I do all the time is I play, as you've noticed, in these kind of movable chord shapes. And a chord shape that I play in a lot is in a C7 shape. So if I play a C chord and I put my pinky down on the 3rd fret of the G string, I get a C7th. And this chord is movable anywhere around the guitar neck. So if I move it up 2 frets, I get a D7th. And then, you know, I can kind of resolve to G. So if I'm playing in G, and I'm playing around this bar chord or this F shape right here, I can just make a C7th shape right there, and I'm already in my 5 chord or my D7th chord. Now, one thing that I'll kind of do with this chord is play around inside of it. I'll just kind of, you know, experiment around and, you know, hit different pieces of it or hit different strings, depending on what I'm, you know, what I'm kind of shooting for in a solo or in a vibe, you know, that I'm playing, but I'm still thinking around this C7 shape. I might even walk this down, which resolves nicely back to my 1 chord. Another thing that I'll do quite often is I'll slide in, similar to we did with that D7th chord, I'll slide in from 1 fret underneath. So I'm just taking this chord and just sliding it in from 1 fret underneath. So this works really well in blues, rock, country. It works well in a lot of different genres. Even when you're playing this C7th, you know, you can slide it in from 1 fret underneath. You can even slide this chord from 1 fret above, and that gives an interesting sound as well. And don't think of, say, lead guitar as I've got to play individual notes. A lot of times when I'm playing lead, you know, I might be playing individual notes, and then I'll go to kind of playing pieces of chords inside of my lead playing. So again, don't think of movable chords as, you know, just rhythm things to do. Experiment around inside of these chords to play lead as well. So let's throw on some backing track. These are really the only things I'm going to be using. You know, maybe just some single notes every now and again. Maybe I come up here and play in my BB King box a little bit, but I'm going to put on, say, a blues backing track, and I'm going to put on a country backing track. And other than, you know, just kind of maybe in my BB King box, maybe in this minor pentatonic box a little bit, the main things I'm going to be using is that lick we talked about at the beginning. I'm going to use, you know, part of this movable D7 shape, and then I'm going to be using this movable C7 shape. So those are really the only things I'm going to use, and I'm going to kind of show you, the main point I want to show you is that, you know, these are kind of things you can use in several different genres. So let's put it on and see what it sounds like. So my point to you is, don't think of guitar licks as any specific genre. Play around with it, experiment, mix them up a little bit, throw them into different genres, see what they sound like. I really do hope this helps. And as always, if you need something, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you.